Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for the guys that put the uck in suck. A show so bad, not only do our parents not listen to it, we don't actually listen to it. Yes, it is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of podcasting. That's right, it is the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. There are too many of us. We talk soccer. Need we say more? I am joined, as always, by my faithful friend, companion, and partner in all things podcasting, who's reclining in his bed, looking ever so comfortable while he eats his wings. Stead, how goes it?
I'm doing great. Yeah, just having the last few days of vacation, but luckily the Wi-Fi works, and hopefully it won't take me 4 hours to download this episode.
Cheers to the end of vacations. London Sean just popped in, and I wanted to yes, we needed a proof of life on you this weekend, and it's good to see you. It was a rough one.
It's still a rough one. Mm-hmm. The cricket finish today. It's been rough for days, weeks, months, years.
Yeah, I broke out my India cricket t-shirt in your honor for today.
Deserved winners. No, it's been a bloody awful week. And it'll get worse once Lowe's gets on as well. But there we go.
But the one thing that England still leads the world in, pitch invaders.
Pitch invaders, yes. And streakers.
Pitch invaders and streakers. There was, on average, one a day throughout the 5 days of the cricket. My favorite was the guy who showed up in a custom Indian cricket jersey, full kit, walked out onto the field and acted like he was trying to play. It didn't help necessarily that he looked to be about a 6'3", 250-pound, pasty, overweight white English guy with some weird name and the number 69 on his back. But yes, he just strolled right out on the pitch and tried to join the Indian team and give Virat Kohli pointers.
That was hilarious, by the way. That was one of the best. That was so funny. I had to rewatch it 3 or 4 times. It's fantastic if you haven't seen it.
You cannot make this stuff up. And the way that the England batters were batting at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that he could have at least done better than some of them.
Was it not the same guy that also got photographed with the Man U European Cup winning team?
Oh,
I was not aware of that. Not aware of that.
There's someone quite famous who's been in several of those sporting situations.
The question is, if he continues to do this, and they don't want him to, with all the CCTVs around all of England, why don't you just ban him from the stadium?
Well, if he hasn't been double vaccinated, he won't be able to get in next time.
There we go. But, and Coach G, how goes it?
Well, apparently the bar mat just turned down the lights because they know it's podcast time. So I've been drinking my sorrows away since Friday night, and I think I'm still intoxicated. It's been a very sad weekend, and watching all the other teams that should be winning, and not our team. So it's been rough. It's been a very dark time, as you can see.
Now, Larry, the insurance guy, is on hold right now. He's been popping in and out while he eats his dinner. There he is. Larry, how goes it, sir?
I'm excited for the Premier League to start this upcoming season, or this upcoming weekend. Ready for the first game, and just excited about the season.
So we're just going to act like last week didn't happen.
Exactly.
Sounds like a plan. I like it. When we don't
like the way... like that's what the Man City players did. They acted like it wasn't happening either. So, we'll
Man City can come hang out in North London.
We get a mulligan for that stuff? For the redo preseason?
Hey, look, I like it. We've used this before. If we don't like the results, we'll just act like it didn't happen.
Yep.
It works. I got to say, though, it was actually, despite the results, not going the way that some of us wanted them to, it was a really good opening weekend, right? 10 games, no draws, 34 goals scored, second highest scoring weekend in the Premier League. I watched 5 games and not a one of them was boring. The Man City game was the only one that ended up 1-0. And even for a 1-0 game, it was a decent, competitive, well-played, exciting game. Larry will give you a chance in a couple of minutes to talk about how City failed to score, but it was competitive.
No, I haven't been on here for the last couple of years, but can you guys confirm something? Would Mike be saying the things about a great weekend if his boys went out there and didn't win 5-1? Would he have this same kind of?
He's usually pretty good. He's all right. He's all right. Yeah, he can. We've had several weeks of strong disdain from Manchester United from that end. Well, he does a good job of waiting for Coach Matt to come on, and then they get into it.
Yeah, no, I would have said it was a good weekend.
He did miss the 6-1 defeat by Tottenham at home last season. It was very noticeable. He was ill that weekend.
No, I came on and I took it from Los, and I said that I took it, and I sat here and I said I took all the abuse. Yeah, I did that one. I even came on after we lost to Villarreal, so I'll do the show, and I will separate my team from the overall.
Well, I can appreciate that. I knew you had it in you to do it.
Yeah. I'm not that much of them, but no, I thought it was. And the most important thing was nary a significant VAR interruption.
Yes.
This weekend. I thought as a whole, the atmosphere and the games were great. It was just really good. So, Sean, I want to get your perspective first. Over here, it was a great advert for the Premier League. How did it look over in the UK?
Yeah, no, very much so. I had several friends that managed to get to games, and I've got some great video shots of the Spurs Man City game, which is so. I think in the stadium, we're happy to see fans back. I think it's very noticeable that if you look at all of the games played over the weekend, there were 7 home wins now that fans are back, and only 3 away wins. And it's lovely to know that even though we lost and Spurs won, they're only 10th in the league because they didn't put enough goals away. So that's also good. I think the press here have been, have been very supportive. The amazing thing is that with all these people going to all these stadiums, that we haven't had more COVID sort of disasters, because there's nothing that's appeared on the news about COVID being spread by people going to these large gatherings and not having their 2 meters distancing or whatever. So that's also good news, isn't it? Because we don't want any more lockdowns.
No, we don't want any more lockdowns, and we definitely don't want to go back into piped-in sound, because nothing says COVID better than ESPN playing "You'll Never Walk," or NBC and Peacock playing "You'll Never Walk Alone" before a Manchester United home game. So, what do you think about this weekend overall?
Like Sean said, it's definitely good to have the fans back, to hear them, to see them, to watch them be celebrating. I hate to say it, but it's actually, I really loved the fan of Brentford who's just crying and crying. I love that. I love that passion. It's good to see that we have that back. Hopefully, London and all of England doesn't get their little spike of COVID, because all of the people there. But it was just good to see that the fans are back. Hopefully, everyone was safe and wearing their mask and vaccinated and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just good to see that the fans and soccer is finally back after a very long time without the fans being full capacity at the stadium. So we'll see what happens in Italy, because apparently Italy's always kind of the dirtier kind of league. So we'll see if they're at full capacity in their stadiums. But it's just good to see that all the leagues are getting back to normalcy. Bundesliga, La Liga, Liga 1, stuff like that. So
well, apparently they're canceling the entirety of the La Liga season because Barcelona can't possibly win it.
Right.
Or pay a bill.
Yeah, they can't pay their bills, so they may not play. There may not be a La Liga, And the Ligue 1 has already been awarded to PSG without a game being played. So those are two fewer leagues that we have to worry about. Stead, what do you think of this weekend?
Well, in my limited capacity to enjoy it due to the fact that I'm still on vacation with my family, it was it was good to see on my phone, just seeing the scores light up. That was exciting. You're not seeing a tentative kind of kickoff to the season where everyone's just sort of like trying not to get injured or something like that. I think the frustrating thing is to not to get too wrapped up in the opening weekend. We got to remember it's still 37 more games to be played, but also the fact that the transfer window is still not closed. And Spurs got to win, but who knows what these teams are going to even look like in 3 weeks time. So I think that's the one part that I have a difficult time really fully integrating yet, is primarily for that reason. And it's almost like once we get to September, then I really start to get a bit more excited for it. But it's good to just kind of see some relative normal looking games being played with fans in the stadiums, and people getting stuff thrown at them from the from the collective fans. But outside of that, I'm trying not to jump to too many conclusions about the season like we like to do so often early in a Premier League season, especially.
It took everything that I had not in me. It took everything that I had in me when I was planning the show and sending out the runner show to not include week one hot takes.
Yeah.
Because that's a too many guys special. We love the week one hot take. I'm sure that it'll get worked in one way or another. When Los gets on, I'm sure that Tottenham's going to win the league. Man City's not going to make it, and Brentford is going to Europe.
Yeah, and Arsenal's going to get relegated.
Yes. Besides the fact that City did not win, Larry, what were your overall impressions of just the weekend as it was, from what you were able to see?
Well, you kind of touched on it real briefly. Just the officiating and the VAR. It seemed like it was a completely different, presentation. I mean, I caught bits and pieces of a lot of games, but I watched obviously the cities from start to finish, and it was just nice seeing people, being physical again. And it was, I think that even some of the players kind of seemed a little bit shocked by some calls that weren't there. Then I'm hoping that it stays that way. I'm hoping that it kind of gets back to what it was where, I don't even think that they checked VAR one time in City and Tottenham's game at all. Which is, you couldn't, how it was last year with that, all of us, no matter who you're rooting for, a goal would happen and you'd have to sit and wait. You couldn't get excited. You couldn't enjoy yourself. You had to see every angle, wait for it. It's almost like a big play in football whenever you're waiting for that flag. But that was something that I was really happy to see. And also kind of like what Stead had mentioned is I wouldn't say, and I probably am speaking for you as well, it's not like you're not excited about because it's still early, but it's like you kind of have to take it. You can't take it for granted. I mean, we saw, like, just again, speaking about City, they were in 14th place after 8 games last year. You know what I mean? And then look what they did, where the transfer window's open. A lot of things can happen. You don't know. People had the Euros, they had Olympics, they had holiday. Like, it's going to be completely different. You kind of look at it more whenever, early to mid-September is whenever you kind of be like, all right, these are our squads. Assuming there's no big injuries, this is kind of what we're going with. So
you brought up a good point with the summer holidays too, because the players kind of trickle back in. They don't have that at least from on the American perspective, we're used to like a training camp where, all players, the pitchers report at this day and receiver, everybody else reports at this day. And because the way the seasons work and they play year round, you have to give them their R&R, and the way they sort of trickle in, like, I can think of 3 players that aren't going to start for Arsenal for quite a while, primarily for what you were talking about. And so it's when you're on the losing end of opening weekend, it's you like to grasp for those sorts of things.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
But even when you're on the winning end, which sadly Arsenal's Augusts have never been something to really write home about. But when you're on the winning end of that, you have to keep that in mind. Like, let's just hold on here, because we can all remember when Hull City beat Arsenal at Emirates, and they were in 4th after the first 4 weeks. They ended up finishing 17th that season, then barely stayed up. So let's pump the brakes.
It is a marathon, not a sprint. But you
Mhm.
also, both of you brought up a very good point with this idea, players coming back. I thought the level of play was pretty good considering the fact that you had players who had only been around in training camp for maybe a week. And even more so, a lot of these players have been playing almost continuously now for 15 months when you think about the way the season, last season, after that 100-day break, starting up in June, running until August, and 2-3 weeks before the next season started, you had the Euros, you had Copa America, you had the Gold Cup plus the CONCACAF Cup of Nations. A lot of these players, a number of them, through various tournaments, including the Olympics, have almost been playing for 15 months straight. I think when Pedri, who's not a Premier League player, but when Pedri gets 2 weeks off, it'll be the first 2 weeks off he's had in since he was born, given how many minutes
his run that he just had was insane. They showed the stats of that.
Yeah, it's like 80-something games.
Yeah, it's like 82 games, I think.
That he's just played since last season, not counting the ones that he had to play at the back end of the previous season for Barcelona, getting into the Champions League quarterfinals. It's insane how much that young man has had to play. And yes, it was nice to see. Overall, I thought, just as from a neutral perspective, I thought it was just a good advent for the Premier League in general. Oh, geez.
All right, guys, I got to go. All right.
Yeah. It was good seeing you, Larry. Los is here.
Get it in, Los. Get it in real quick before he leaves.
I'm just going to turn it over to Los and let him go because I'm sure
we're just getting started. Hey, Larry, how you doing?
I said, before you got on, I said, I'm just excited for the Premier League to start this upcoming weekend. For all the teams.
Newsflash, it started last weekend, just so you know.
Oh, I missed the game. Oh, man.
You missed the game. Well, it was a heck of a game. Honestly, I mean, some people are calling it masterclass by Nuno, but, I don't know if we'll go that far. Let me just tell you what, though. It is a different team with Nuno at the helm than it was with Mourinho. So I'm hoping for more excitement, more victories. We've got a chance here. We got, Man City was, to start out the season against the defending champions. That's a tough gig, but we pulled it off. We got a couple. We got Wolves, which is Nuno going back to where he's been working the last 3 years. Then we got Watford and Crystal Palace, and so totally winnable games for Spurs. We could. God, I hope we could be 4-0 in the matter of just a couple weeks. But and then after that, we have to face Chelsea and Arsenal. So then our plate gets full. So it's going to be we need these victories over the next few weeks to try and stay up there, because Chelsea is not going to be a picnic, and Arsenal's never a walk in the park. So at least if it's a walk in the park, you don't walk alone, because it's Arsenal.
So Los.
Sorry, I lost my earpiece. Go ahead.
Los, first question, and I'll throw the reverse to Larry after you get done. What was it that went right for Spurs in this 1-0 win?
The midfield. I'm sorry. Was it Larry first or me?
You. What went right for Spurs in this one?
What went right for Spurs? The midfield played well. The defense held up. Hugo made some outstanding saves, and Sonny put the ball in the net when he needed to. That's what it boiled down to. It's not much more than that. It doesn't get more complicated than that. They really did play. I mean, I don't know if you saw, they actually had a diagram on the NBC broadcast where they showed 4, 3, 2, 1. It was amazing. It was actually, you can see it. It was like geometry. There it was. There's a Christmas tree. And it worked out. It worked out well for us. Sonny did well picking up the Harry Kane slack, if you will. But he always plays well when Harry is not playing. He seems to play better when Harry is not playing. He seems to score more when Harry is not playing. So I'm looking forward to it. And Sonny, I don't know if you heard the post-game conference when he was talking with the guys on the side of the field, but he was very well versed in English. I was actually quite surprised how well he was speaking the language. And I'm like, this is good.
They learn
because I know darn well I go to Korea for a few years, I'm going to be stumbling over phrases, and I might be saying something I probably don't want to say on live television. So
now, Son Heung-min actually made a real concerted effort to learn English when he got over there. He was talking about that because I'm not sure Park Ji-sung really did that, and other Korean players that have come over to really immerse.
But there's also the fact that English is the compulsory class.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, also, with his schooling and that was part of his. When I lived in Japan as a kid, and Japanese was just in your school day, and then you took another language in addition to that. So yeah, I'm sure he was in something very similar to that. But yeah, his English is very good.
Yeah, he sounded very, and again,
much like all the soccer phrases, using them right, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this guy's got it. I mean, it was
less that he's commanded English. I just really did like his presence in front of the media, how calm and collected he was, and just straightforward, relaxed. He just seems like he's had a little bit of media training, which is always a good thing.
I think he's actually training the media whenever he does that little camera thing he does. It's training. This is how you take pictures, boys.
I love it when he does that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the bit. I love the bit when he just bursts into tears when Tottenham get knocked out of competition.
Well, that too. So, Larry, where did it go wrong?
It means something. The badge means something, Sean.
Yeah.
Well, let me just start off. I'm sure we all have these players that for absolutely no reason. I know Son is probably one of the most liked players in the league. I've heard it from multiple, and he's just a nice guy. I can't stand him. He's my Tottenham player that just me and my son, we know he could go on a 30 or 37 game, or he couldn't score for 36 weeks. He's going to score against City. He always does. He shows up. He's a hell of a player, 100%. And I know he's a nice guy and everything. He's a class act. I hate him. I can't stand him.
Not as much as we hate Kane.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
So,
of course,
I mean,
give him a cannon though. I'll be his biggest fan.
100%. Yeah, I'll be one of the first to have his jersey if he's wearing the sky blue at any point. Yeah. So.
Before you go, Larry, what's your prediction on Grealish? What is he going to do for you? Do you think goals, assists? Give me a guess.
Numbers wise, you want?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 8 to 10 goals, 8 to 10 assists.
Kind of. You think he'll play week in, week out?
I think because of what their squad looked like as far as people being in and out, coming back, he got more. I was surprised to see him start. But I think that, kind of someone mentioned it last week, even though with the pockets they have, they didn't pay $100 million just to have him sit on the bench. They're going to give him every opportunity. And as long as he keeps it up, I think he's one of those players that'll, unfortunately, like I said, Bernardo is going to take the back seat unless something happens. There's some injuries. I think Grealish will play. I do. Just what he brings. I think that it's something that, you even saw how many fouls did he draw? And maybe one or two of them was a little weak, but he just draws the fouls. He works hard, and that's exactly what Pep wants, is people working. So.
Where does it go? Where did it go wrong for him in this game?
Well, there was a couple things as Los talked.
Jeff Tanganga.
Well, again, that's one of the things you saw. Once again, Sterling kind of came up small against. Whenever he has people that are guarding him tight, he has a hard time. He can't beat Wan-Bissaka. He can't. Apparently, Jaffet just kind of dominated him as well. It just bodied him. But you mentioned the midfield. I think this kind of exposed Fernandinho. I love the guy to death. I'm glad he came back for a year, but having him play 90 or however much he played, you kind of need Rodri out there. You need, and you saw what the instant impact that De Bruyne had on the game whenever he came in at the end of the game. I mean, it was amazing. Now, granted, I know Spurs, what would have it been if Kane had played, or what would, other plays they were missing. I was just blown away at how quick, and I was surprised that De Bruyne was even on the bench, let alone got into the game because of what the injury he's kind of, still recovering from. But not having him there, and it really just showed. And again, I like Ferran Torres. He works hard. You saw, I mean, they mentioned it quite a few times. He's making these runs all over. There was just no distribution from the midfield. There was no, I mean, Sterling, I don't know really what he did all game. Mahrez had his moments, but it was the midfield. Mendy needs to go. I don't even know why he's still on the team. I think that they just keep trying to give him a chance. But I'd rather have Zinchenko there. He's just a steadier player. But up front, you saw the need for the 9, or just a better distribution, and maybe Torres would have had a better game. But the mid, I really honestly think it was the midfield. It started in the midfield. Not having De Bruyne there, not having Rodri instead of him, or having De Bruyne just makes a huge difference.
De Bruyne was the difference there, no doubt. KDB plays the whole game. It's a different ball game.
Now KDB's still coming back. He struggled through the Euros with the injuries. He's been a bit banged up. He hasn't had full camp. I'm sure that he'll fit back in. But Larry, it has been 2 competitive matches. Even if you don't want to acknowledge the Charity Shield as being competitive, but that's 2 competitive matches, 2-1 nil defeats.
Well, look at Chelsea with the championship. That's 3.
Mm-hmm. So to start the season, 2-1 nothing defeats, and the reason why they wanted Kane was because they let Kun Aguero go, and they don't have a striker. Do they need to get Kane? We hear rumors that they're going to up the bid and force that through. Will the goals just come? Is this something to be concerned about, or is it just one of those things that, when they start scoring, we know that when Pep gets it going, he can score in bunches when he wants to?
Well, if you bring Kane in and he stays healthy, you're getting goals. It's just, it is what he is. There's no denying that. He is that extra presence in the middle. Whether he scores goals or not, he's gonna, it's gonna filter down to goals because he's gonna open up the wings coming in. How many goals do they have that are just tap in goals because of the work rate of their, of their other forwards, or their outside mids that are making these plays? It's something that I don't like to say the Community Shield was nothing, but you look at their lineup, and I don't want to get too excited or too down on the fact that, they haven't scored the last 2 games, just because we know what they can do whenever their squad is there. There was just quite a few players that just really changed the fact of them not being there. I'm not too worried about it yet. I'm not delusional in thinking, all right, it would be nice to have at least scored in these games, but the Community Shield, I don't really care. I don't want to say I don't care about that game. I don't really care about it, though. Tottenham, and then, Chelsea in the Champions League. Chelsea was Pep's fault. Tottenham was I think it was just a lack of players, and Tottenham played well. They controlled. They had their counters that were ready to go. They probably should have scored a couple other ones. This is what it is. Week 1.
Los,
Sir.
Where does this Harry Kane saga end up?
Well, that's a great question, and we'll find out in the next just few days, because it's the 16th. So we got only a couple weeks left of this, and then after the 31st, we'll know for sure where everything is. I think right now, hi Elizabeth. I think right now, he's not moving, but I think the chance of him moving has increased. I think Levy's going to get what he wants for him. He asked for 160. He's going to get 160 if this is going to happen. because otherwise he's not. He says you're still under contract for a few more years. We'll accommodate you, but we want something back in return. And so he wants what he wants. I don't know what else to say.
If they do need to replace him, where do they head? Do they need to replace him, or can Song be counted on to act as that lone striker in Nuno's system?
I think Son can do most of the job, but I mean we need more than just Sonny, because crap happens. Okay, players get hurt. We need more than just him up front. We need other players. We need, if we could get Steven Bergwijn to put a shot in the net, that'd be great. He's all kinds of effort and real fast going to the goal, but he can't seem to find the net, and that's a problem. I mean, I even told some of the guys in the Spurs thread, maybe we should have allowed Ajax to go ahead and get him this summer, because it just seems like he's got this great work ethic. He goes out and he produces some a little bit of magic, but he can't find the back of the net, and it drives me crazy. As far as up front, I'm not totally sure what's going to happen there. I wonder if the whole Kane thing, I wonder if it might be 160 mil, and they might throw in Laporte and Jesus anyway, just because they want him that badly. So I don't know if that would happen. That would be, I mean, at that point, what can Levy do except say, yeah, we'll go ahead and make that deal, because he'd be foolish not to make that one. But will that happen? Who knows? It's really a question mark. It's we don't know what's going to happen. I know Nuno would love to have him for at least a season, but whether or not he gets the chance to work with Harry, well, that remains to be seen. I think that was probably the sticking point in some of the other coaches and that whole carousel of coaches we had this summer, where people were coming in. Oh yeah, we're good to go. We're going to take over and run Tottenham, and then all of a sudden they find out what, Kane's leaving, and then they decided to back out. So that's, I think, part of what happened with that coaching carousel this summer. The little merry-go-round of coaches that came in, interviewed, and left. So that's personally what I think what happened there. I hope he stays. I love to see him stay. I mean, he's been with the team since the academy days. So it's like, the whole, and the cheer, he's one of our own, and then there was that other cheer after the match. Are you watching Harry Kane? That the fans were cheering. So I don't know if you heard them singing that song or not. I'm hoping that he saw it. I hope it actually makes him feel like he should stay and give it one more go, because this team really has a different personality to it this year. They just seem like they're more with it this year. They're more on fire. They're more cohesive. And it's only been one game, but it just looks like a different team than what I've seen over the last 18 months.
And how could he possibly pass up a chance to play in the Europa Conference League? I mean, isn't that...
It's a debut. It could be the first.
He could be the first team to win the Europa Conference League. Isn't that what everybody, when we were all playing soccer as young boys, we dreamed
it's a brand new tournament. Look, you got whatever the games are in front of you, you just got to go out, play them, and win them. That's what you got to do. Okay, wherever they decide to put you, that's what you do. You go out and win what you got to win.
So, Larry, according to you, your season starts this weekend at home in the Etihad versus newly promoted Norwich.
Yep.
All right, something's got to give here.
I think.
Give. I mean, come on. Like, if they can't score against Norwich, can we admit that we have problems?
I hate to say this, but I just got that feeling that it's going to open up, and it could be kind of a pen up just kind of release, and I don't know, maybe like a 4-1, 5-0. You know, I think it's going to be high scoring.
All right. Los, give me a prediction for Spurs and Wolves and the Nuno Derby.
Yeah, in the Nuno Derby. I think it'd be Spurs 2-0.
Spurs to start the game with 2 consecutive season with 2 wins and 2 clean sheets.
When does the transfer window close?
31st.
I think if City goes through the next 2 games, if Arsenal is not a game that they're scoring or they're comfortable, you know, they'll push all in on Kane. But by that point, if it kind of the longer it goes, I think Levy's going to have to start pushing for Jesus to be part of any kind of deal, just because you don't have any time to replace it by that point. So he has the leverage, but the longer he waits, City will wait for players. They waited, they waited for they waited for a couple players in the last couple of years, and they were okay with waiting for it because they know that they can do without that out and out 9. Do they want them? Yeah, but I don't know. It'll be interesting.
If the unthinkable happens and Norwich beats Man City this weekend, how crucial would it be then for them to push for Kane? I think becomes maybe he offer more than 160 million.
I think it really comes down to how the game plays out and who's playing. I mean, if they lose 1-0, 100%, I agree that they'll push more. If they, if they're getting a ton of shots, I mean, it's like I put in the chat. They're like and all the teams do this, but Cities, I feel like they're just like the league leaders in shots and then percentage to shots on goal. It's disgusting. They could have 70% possession. They could have 30 shots, 30 shot attempts and then have 4 on goal. They're just, it's very frustrating. But if they lose to Norwich in a 1-0, I could see them really pushing it. They lose 3-2 or something, and it really was a breakdown on the defensive end. Well, it could be a different tell.
Yeah.
So, all right, gentlemen.
Can I remind you that you beat Man City 2-0 at the beginning of last season, and
we did.
What happened at the end of the season?
Well, that was the Mourinho masterclass last year. Where Mourinho did the counterattack, and we won 2-0 because of 2 breakaway goals that City just totally collapsed. So,
and then if VAR helps, if I can remember that correctly.
Yeah, well, VAR is VAR. It's gonna help. It's gonna hurt. We saw some statistics on who it helped and who it hurt. We went ahead and took a look at the table. If they got rid of all the VAR challenges, what might have happened to the table at that point? It was kind of interesting to see, but it's going to be better this year, I think, on the officiating front. And you can already tell it's different. The referees are calling the game differently this year, and so I'm hopeful that it continues to be a good year for the referees as well.
All right, gentlemen. So we are going to move on and welcome in our good friend from the land of wonder that is Scotland.
Gentlemen, I got to get out of here. Thank you.
All right, good to have you,
Larry. Nice winning against you, Larry. See you.
Until next week.
Talk to you later, Larry.
All right, later.
We're going to talk to our good friend from the land of enchantment that is Scotland. Celtic Cam, how goes it, my friend?
Good. It's been a good week for me.
Yeah, right now the pod is evenly divided in between people who had good weeks and people who had bad weeks. For Celtic, it's actually probably been a good going on 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. You pick up the win in the Europa League playoffs. You pick up the first league win and a Scottish Cup win. It looks like Anze Postecoglou has somehow managed to put the wheels back on. And this happens to, and you have to be smiling right now, coincide with a abject failure by the Huns.
Oh, absolutely.
So give us a look at what's going on in the world of Celtic, and then fill us in on what's going on with Scotland in general this weekend or last weekend.
So it's definitely been a good couple of weeks, as you mentioned. I think finally the fans that kind of, said to the fan base, let Angie come in, work his magic. He's going to need a bit of time to get on board. And that's played out. In the past 4 games, we've scored 17 goals and we've let in 4. A pretty decent stat comparative to where we ended up last season. In comparison to Rangers, who have scored 7 and let in 5. I think we're now seeing Angie's, attacking team mentality coming into play. Kyogi Furuhashi has been unbelievable. I don't think I've seen a player come in this quickly into a team, at least in Scotland, and just wrap his head around the game so fast. He's beautiful to watch playing. He's a player that is very easily able to suddenly turn, take that ball. He's fast paced, the vision he has. I think he's really been, a game changer for the team. And then overall, I would say Angie, I think, has lifted some of the other players that last season, players like Christie, that just were looking sluggish. Christie has had, I think, one of the best starts to a season he's had in a long time. And then even some of these younger guys, Turnbull was looking good last season, but again, he has that renewed energy this season. And then we've got youngsters like Stephen Welsh, who are getting this first team action, which we've been calling for and Angie's pushing for. And, he's scoring. Ralston, same thing. Ralston is second in terms of goals in the SPL at this point in time. And he was a player last season that just didn't get utilized. So, I'm really liking Angie's attacking style of football. I'm really excited for it. I think it's a breath of fresh air, not only for Celtic, but I think for Scottish football in general. Scottish football has generally been a defensive game. And I think it's very exciting to see this kind of attacking mentality come into a team in Scotland.
On the other side, it kind of came unglued for Rangers in the Europa League. Like you said, that they're scoring, but they're not scoring enough to overcome the goals that they're conceding. Is this a bump in the road, or is this a more serious trend, or is it just a case of they weren't Champions League quality and they're dropping down to the level of their own capable performance?
Yeah, honestly, Malmo is a team that has really always plagued teams from Scotland. For whatever reason, their playing style, it just always butts head against, any team that comes from Scotland. I know there's been, a number of campaigns in the last 5 to 10 years that we've dropped out because of Malmo. They are just generally a difficult team for Scotland, teams from Scotland to beat. I will say, in terms of looking at how Rangers have been playing, it has not been consistent. They're off to a very slow start, and I think Gerard's having a difficult time, especially after losing 3 of the past 4 games, getting his team mentality right. I think I'd have to say Itten and Roof, they've kind of kept it together, but Kent are not fully there. It's just, it looks like they are falling apart a little bit. I think these 3 losses after having won so much last year have really rocked the boat a little bit, whereas Celtic is coming out here with really nothing to lose at this point in time. So we're kind of throwing everything at it. And again, as I say, we've got this new manager who's bringing a completely new, management style to the team. We've got the Derby in I think it's
end of the month.
29.
Yeah, the 29th.
29th. And I've got to admit, Rangers have kind of been added, kind of been given the short straw with that. They're flying out to Armenia 3 days before that to play a team out there. Then they're flying back for the Derby. So, they are kind of a disadvantage at that. However, they're also playing a team 9th in the Armenian League, and we're playing a team from the, the Dutch League. So there is that to take into account too, but I'm very interested to see how this attacking mentality plays out for the Derby at the end of August.
So the SPL the table makes for some interesting reading after 2 weeks. You got Hibs, Aberdeen, who are the last team other than Rangers or Celtic to win it, and they did that when Sir Alex was the manager. And Hearts.
Yeah, it's that kind of second string of Scottish teams sitting on top right now. It's usually Celtic or Rangers in first and second, and then third, fourth, and fifth. It's one of those teams. And I do have to say, I think Hearts have come out looking really good, and Hibs as well. Kevin Nisbet playing for Hibs. He's a youngster. Celtic have been picking him up for the past couple of years. He was included in the Euro squad. He's a really intelligent attacking player. Again, his vision in terms of attack is absolutely brilliant. He's young. I think he's 19. He's a perfect player for a team like Celtic, even Rangers, to pick up for development. So, I'm really excited to see how Kevin Nisbet plays in Scotland this season. And then Hearts, as I say, a little bit older of a team, but, they seem well together, strong midfield. So, and then, of course, Aberdeen has Scott Brown, at the helm. So understandably, they're going to do well this season. So
legendary
Scott manager.
Brown.
Player manager, yeah, half and half.
Is he?
Yep.
He can't string more than 4 words together. How's he got that job?
Wayne Rooney can only string
Oh man,
together
now,
3.
Sean, now. That's my god right there.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's your god, but he didn't go to he didn't go to public school though, did he? I suppose not many footballers went to public schools.
I was gonna say he's smart with the game.
I'm being a bit hard. So has Aberdeen become your second team now?
I mean, to be honest, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Hibs.
Okay.
My dad, when he was younger, was a Hibs fan. Growing up in Edinburgh, so always had a soft spot there for Hibs. Hearts, don't really like them. They call them the mini Huns in Scotland. And then Aberdeen are known by a less pleasant name, the Sheep Shaggers. So, yeah.
Let's hope that's not what attracted Scott Brown to take up.
Yeah, I would think not. I would think it's hopefully, getting some time in the management role and, hopefully getting his UEFA license at some point.
So are you hopeful that you're going to close the gap this year with Rangers?
I think, I am excited this year because, to be honest, at the end of the day, both teams have something to work for now. Many seasons in the past, it's really been one or the other. And, in the past 10 years, it's really been Celtic. This season, we're now seeing a revival of Celtic in attacking position. Rangers are going to be wanting that, second ever league title win. So I think, I'm really excited for this season. And as I say, some of these other teams that have this talent that, it just goes to show how good I think Scotland is doing. We've got 5 teams in European competition right now, it's pretty high for Scotland, between Europa and, the Europa Conference League. And I know we scoff at that, but for Scotland, for teams like St Johnstone, it's a big deal. It really shows, I think, how far Scottish football is coming.
Let's hope you can beat Scotland in the Europa Conference.
You're hoping that they can beat themselves? So, all right, Cam. Well, thanks a lot for giving us the report on Scotland, and we will get you back next week to talk a little bit more about Celtic and the SPL. But right now, we are going to turn to one of my favorite points of the show. It is time to turn it over to my compatriots for Arsenal group therapy. Gentlemen, yes, as G orders pitch. I was doing my reading before the show, and it looks as though Brentford over Arsenal was the most predicted upset of the first day. The one that came in second was actually Leeds and Man United. Well, we all saw how that went. But this one had a little bit of an air of expectation. I would not have been surprised at all if Arsenal had gone out and absolutely tonked Brentford. But you also there was no surprise in what happened. But this is not the way that Mikel Arteta wanted to start the season. And in listening to some pundits on Guardian's Football Weekly, they were saying Arteta has basically 10 games to save his career at Arsenal. So I'm going to start with our longest suffering Arsenal fan, London Sean. What was your reaction to this game?
I was always worried about our 3 opening games, knowing that Mikel's sort of on a bit of a knife edge. I don't think many Arsenal fans saw us doing too much against Chelsea and Man City, who are our next 2 league games. But the Brentford game, was a key game. And I think we were talking about this on the chat even up to a month ago. However, on the run-up to this game, even though we had some quite good results in pre-season friendlies, we lost Thomas Partey, and he is a really pivotal part of the winning machine that we had at the end of last season. So we lost Partey, but I think more worryingly, and I have to say I very nearly wagered on Brentford, losing Aubameyang and Lacazette on Friday morning was a complete and utter disaster. And I'm very surprised that we've not heard more about this in the press because, excuse my language, but illness my arse. If it's COVID, they've always reported that any footballer's got COVID. COVID's not pronounced as an illness. No, someone's got COVID, so they obviously haven't got COVID. So what, they both go down with the same illness on the same day? Anyway, so we went into that game having to put a debutant on the field, 20-year-old, who high hopes for him. Balogun is a good player, but you know, Brentford, first time in 74 years they're back in the top flight. They're in their new stadium. It's full. They're making a lot of noise. They've got two big burly central defenders who sort of gave Balogun a bit of a lesson. The result is not great, but the performance I don't think was quite as bad as the media have made it out to be. Everyone is jumping on the Arsenal bandwagon, which was going to be predictable if you lost the game. But if you compare how we played against our home games last season against Villa, Leicester, Wolves and Burnley, which we lost 4 on the trot, we actually, I think, played slightly better than that. But we have a plan for next Sunday. So Sunday coming up is again a pivotal game. Let's not forget that it was our victory against Chelsea at home that set us off on our spectacular run last year. So let's hope that that happens again. And the biggest ploy is we need a bigger fucking set of flags when the teams come out, and we need flags double the size of the ones that were at the new White Hart Lane Stadium yesterday when they came out against Man City. And that should do us the trick, basically. So we need to go out and buy big flags.
Big flags.
And wave them furiously. Does that sound like a plan, Gene?
The key to Arsenal's victory is waving bigger flags.
Yes.
Hopefully those big flags won't be white.
No, red and white.
Okay.
Because North London is red and white, as we all know.
All right. Yeah.
You're speechless, Mike. It doesn't happen very often.
No, and I haven't had enough to drink this evening to even consider it that yeah.
You've never come across the bigger flag theory. No?
I've never come across a bigger flag theory. I've come across mascot superiority.
Yeah.
I've come across short color. I will be wearing
or Mourinho eye gouging on the touchlines as well. That's on the front.
So I'm wearing this special one on Thursday.
Oh, I remember that one.
Southampton.
I remember when
that was an ugly one.
Lee Sharp. Would he have worn that shirt?
Probably. That one happens to be a Dennis Irwin, but I always wear that one when we play Southampton because they famously changed the kits at halftime because Sir Alex said that they couldn't see each other, and that was why they were losing to Southampton.
Was that not a full grey strip, though?
It was a full grey strip.
Yeah.
So they came out in like blue and white shirts with gray shorts at second half because Sir Alex said that they started losing the game because they couldn't see each other in the fog because they were wearing gray kits on the South Coast for an FA Cup game. And they did not wear a gray strip again until after Sir Alex retired.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, they wore a gray strip, and that was the first time that they had worn one since that particular one. So I have that just to wear to Southampton games because I'd like to memorialize one of the crazier theories for why a team wins or loses. But the bigger flag theory is not one that I had ever heard. I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Stead, what do you make this?
I think we send Sean's request over to K9 so we can play the song "Waving Flag" again at the Arsenal game because they're going to need all the help they can get. I mean, it's how many times have I said this? I mean, again, you have a team that gets manhandled by a squad that appears to want it more, and it's often a team that's either trying to stay out of relegation or a newly promoted side. How many times have we seen this happen to Arsenal, especially in August? They seem to lack any sort of actual balls when it comes to these sorts of games. I mean, we can all recall the numerous things that, Robbie Keane has said, that Gary Neville has said, that Patrick Vieira has said. Now we've seen Emmanuel Petit has said it recently. We have heard Troy Deeney. I think he probably said it best. He's like, they don't have no balls. And I remember I was so mad when he said it, but I just was like, I said Roy Keane before you got here, Matt. Go away. So I sat there and I was like, remember when Dini said it, I was like, he's exactly right, though. He's exactly right. And Mike, you even said this too, where what happened to that Patrick Vieira who puts his foot in the ball and says, if you start this, you're gonna have to deal with me now. Arsenal has not had that player, and for some reason, they don't seem to want that player, and it is so apparent that once they go down, that's game. That's game. I saw a stat, and it was basically if Arsenal's losing at halftime under Arteta, they are 0-16-8. So again, they can't get rattled and dig themselves out of it. Now we've seen them do this on kind of later in the year. We saw them starting to kind of like win the ugly game, but for some reason they're winning ugly games when they're also just trying to save face and not finish 8th. It's not like they're winning ugly games so they can get back in Champions League like it used to be 10 years ago. And now you're getting manhandled again. I feel like I'm watching them play Stoke all over again because Stoke used to come in and take Arsenal over a barrel, and it's embarrassing. And I think the squad, it doesn't matter how much money you spend when you have a culture of a team that does not play with the level of heart that's necessary to understand when you are down that you have to step up and just move everybody out of your way. This is just going to continue. And it is so frustrating because it's when that first goal went in, I was like, well, that's game. I mean, I knew it. I knew it was game. I knew it was. And we knew on the chat that it was game. And it was just, that's the part that's why I put in that I found a horrible meme, and I can only share with Arsenal fans because it's a girl who's dancing and she's crying the whole time. And that's how Arsenal fans feel at the beginning of every season. We're really happy the season starts and then we start crying pretty early. So, again, though, like I said earlier in the show, I'm not going to get down this time, though, because I do think there is a lot still to be settled when it comes to what is this squad going to look like. And I do support the squad overhaul that the team is doing. I do support it. The whole thing stinks about the Laka and Aubameyang sickness that they both got at the same time, unless they were both hungover from partying together. I don't see why else this would be the situation, especially at the same time when you're hearing of both of those players likely to being sold, especially to squads that could probably take an older contract who just kind of want to probably need to spread some money around a little bit more. But I'm like, just dump the whole, just if you're over 24, just go. And let's just keep the guy, or if you've been on the squad more than 2 years, just go. Maybe I should put it that way. Just go. It's time for us to get a new culture in that squad. And it's all right. Arteta, player performance is one thing, but when players are getting punked, that's on the management. That's on the management. So that's my biggest critique on it. It's just, I don't care about the tactics with this one. They got punked, and they get punked too often. And it's frustrating to watch a team that you support get punked and know they're getting punked. And everybody's been telling you you're getting punked for years. And you come back the next year in the first game, what do? You get taken over a barrel and you get punked again. It's ridiculous.
All right, Jake, the most Arsenal thing ever would be for them to go out and lose to Brentford and then somehow come back and beat Chelsea and Man City.
Wouldn't that be amazing? But Chelsea looks like they're hitting on every cylinder even before the season even begun. And then they add Lukaku, it's going to be tough. And our defense is right now. We have no offensive prowess. And kind of like what you said, Mike, if we get the white flags going right now, it might not be a bad thing. So it's going to be real tough. We have such a young squad, but Arteta's such a newer coach, young coach. I don't think he knows how to handle that. We don't have any veteran players or even like 28, 29, 30-year-olds who really take the team upon their shoulders to carry us through these kind of lows. And I hate to say it, we're in a low right now, first game of the year. We don't look good. They didn't really change up their tactics at halftime. So you got to blame Arteta for a little bit. I don't know why they couldn't play Saka to start off, or even Holding. I'm not a big fan of Holding, but you got to do something to kind of bring some of these experienced players to come in to kind of help out the team. Xhaka, he plays well on the Swiss national team, but for our team, I have never been really a big fan of his. He just kind of holds his own. Once in a while, you might see a great goal, you might see a great pass, but we need a little bit more consistency in the middle, and hopefully with Smith Rowe, he comes in, a young stud, he looks a lot of promise, but he can't only do it by himself. Tierney looks pretty darn good too, but he can't do it by himself. Like I said earlier, Joe Willock, sold him for $20 million. Why couldn't we give him $25 million to stay, or why couldn't we give him a little bit extra? He's got a lot of promise. So is he like a Darby when he goes out to where is he at? Byron, who we give up on as such a young talent, and here he is, lighting up with Byron and scoring left and right. It looks like we just don't know what direction we're going to go right now, and just kind of sad that the 23rd minute they scored on us and we didn't really kind of fight to get back. And 73rd minute they scored, and yep, game over. I turned it off right away, and it's really hard to watch them right now. So don't know really what's going on. Ben White didn't have a good game. Offense, there's no offense right now. And if we're going to sell our best two forwards to Barcelona, who's going to come and support us right now? I know, right? Got an offspring in the back. That's how I feel. But I just think it's just crazy right now. It's just not what I'm looking for.
I don't think that you have to worry about them selling their best.
They're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. They're definitely not going to Barca. When you hear that their potential transfer of both Lacazette and Aubameyang is dependent on how much they get from Martin Braithwaite. Yeah. Yeah. And that PK is basically playing for free so that they could afford to register the players that they already bought. Where are they getting the money for the wages for these two guys? I think you're pretty safe there. Sean, last word on it, and then we'll move on to Coach Matt, who has just joined us. Sean, it could get really ugly very, very quickly for Arsenal. As you have all mentioned, the next games are against City, or against Chelsea this week, and then City. In between, they have a game against West Brom in the Manchester City Cup before they get to Norwich, and then
Burnley.
Norwich, Burnley before you get Tottenham. It could be by the end of April, or by the end of September. It could be bad.
Yeah,
it could be bad.
Well, by the end of August, it could be bad.
By the end of September, it could be worse. Right?
Much worse.
Yeah. I mean,
I do want to say this.
I say certain things. It's quite difficult to make any predictions now because everyone's mentioned that the window is not yet closed. But it's obvious to Arsenal fans and to non-Arsenal fans who don't care about Arsenal that we need a right back. We need a central midfielder to play with passing. We need a creative midfielder and push Emil Smith-Rowe out to the wing. And now you could argue that we probably need some sort of backup striker, although we've got 4 at the moment. So I think if we can sort of fill those positions, there's a guy who's apparently up for sale in Trippier. We were just talking about having some balls in the side.
Yeah.
Now there's a guy who's got balls. Why aren't we going out and buying him?
Absolutely.
We need someone in central midfield who can tackle, run, and pass.
Mm-hmm.
I just listened to a pod earlier. So Brentford went all out as soon as they knew that Xhaka was playing to do the press. and they pressed us out of the game. That's why Leno had an awful game. I mean, I would argue that we definitely kept the wrong keeper last year, and now we're struggling to. And Leno doesn't look interested, and we're trying to play the ball out with him, and he's hesitating. Teams are closing us down, and this is going to happen over and over and over again. And whilst Xhaka's in the team, so the only good news is Partey's back by the time we play Norwich. And I hope that the team is slightly more settled and will have bought some new players. If we don't, then I agree that, it's not going to be fun being an Arsenal.
So what's up?
I will say this, though. I do think, though, that even with my griping right now about the team, as most enraged Arsenal fans are, I think it's going to be very helpful to not have Europe this year. I do. And I could easily see Arsenal stumbling out the blocks. But Arsenal also won 11 games in a row. And I can see that also occurring. I can see a team that's sitting in 16th place by the end of September. And then you slowly see them climb back up the mountain. And by January, February, we're back in 6th place. So I'm just saying, and I don't think anyone be surprised by that, because Arsenal does not have the pressure of Europe right now.
Yeah, this is the first time we're playing this early in the League Cup, 26 years, by the way. We've never played in this round.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, the League Cup is something that Arsenal could win. It's something Arsenal could win. And,
apart from it's called the Man City Cup.
Yes, that's true. And if Arsenal is able to win, I will stop calling it the Man City Cup. But that is a cup that Arsenal could win. That's all I'm going to say. We can move on.
All right. Get to welcome in Coach Matt.
I feel like I'm walking onto Old Trafford right now.
I'm going there in 2 weeks' time. No, mid-September. Yeah. For a conference.
Don't be afraid to dream. All right, because it's a theater of dreams. All right.
It is. Well, you go up. Have you been? You haven't been yet, Matt, have you?
No, I've been there. I've been there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yep.
When you get up the top of the escalators, all the things. I was welcomed by Ryan Giggs' goal against Arsenal in the semi-final of the FA Cup.
Oh, good.
Had to go down the escalators the other way.
Well, maybe it wasn't the 1. Maybe it was the 5, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. No, that's very true.
I don't know. What can you really say about that one? Bruno Fernandes with the hat trick. Only the second hat trick that Manchester United have scored since Robin van Persie's hat trick to win the against Villa to win the league. Paul Pogba with 4 assists. Mason Greenwood struggled a little bit in the first half, but then looking every bit the number 9 that people predicted him to be in the second half with that goal and some of the touches. Even Victor Lindelof getting in with a defensive pass. And I knew it was over when Fred scored a goal. Fred. Like, let's put it out in perspective. The game got out of hand so quickly that Fred scored. It was a nice day. Get out. I don't want to take too much from this because it's hard to see, like, as much G and Sean instead as Arsenal look bad, and we're like, we don't want to take anything from the fact that they lost. I as a United fan, and maybe Matt, you feel differently, I don't want to take too much from that. I thought they looked good, but they were playing against, it was the first game of the season against a Leeds team that is not exactly known for their defending. And we all know that Pogba can fall off the boil. Bruno can be streaky. Mason Greenwood's not going to have that game. And that this is not going, it's not going to be, they're not the finished article yet.
Yeah, no, it's tough. You obviously have to keep yourself in check, like you were saying. But it's it's also at the same time, it's pretty exciting because I will say heading into the season, a lot of us were kind of worried about how slow, Sancho and Varane were being revealed and being able to get acclimated with the team, and the fact that they weren't going to be able to play. And then also too, people forget, like, this was a rivalry game, like, and the fans were there for the first time, and Leeds fans were there in full voice, for, while they were still in the game. And so there was a lot of things riding on this game, a lot of emotions. Things could have gone really bad. I think every United fan, if this ended up being, a 1-0 or a 1-1 draw, or that weren't firing on all cylinders, we kind of had the excuses kind of ready. Like, well, we haven't had this, or like Sancho, wasn't ready, or once Varane steps in, and the fact that they came out, even players like Maguire being able to play the full 90, coming back from the England squad and like from the Euro break early, and just setting the tone, solidifying the defense. Lindelof, I think, what was it? I think Roy Keane said, like it was a couple of days ago, talking about how, players want to see other good players come in the transfer window. If you're a player that gets actually mad about good players coming in, then you probably don't belong at the club, because you want to compete for your spot. You want to believe that you're the best player for that spot, and someone to come and challenge you to get the best out of you is something that you would want. And he said that in the old United days, like that was the mentality. And I think that we kind of saw that kind of from Lindelof. I think Lindelof is like, oh yeah, revealing Varane today, let me just ping this ball like perfectly to Bruno to get an assist, which he's done, with Rashford before as well. And I think Lindelof was very solid yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't want to get too excited, like you said, but it was really important, I think, that we set a statement. One of the things that you could hear at the post game that they were all talking about was, all right, we saw what Manchester United did. Now let's go see what Chelsea, Liverpool, and City do, right? And the fact that we got to make that statement early on, I think, was really important. I think it is going to be a tight top 4 race. And I think statement games like this, like early in the season, and especially during like rivalry games, like if we can pull these through, I just have a really good gut feeling that, something special about this team. There's something clicking with them, and I don't know. I'd take it away, Mike. If I'm being too lofty, let me know.
No, but I also agree that it was important to get out. And one of the things where we struggled a lot, and possibly even to the point where we gave away any chance that we had at winning the league last year, was our home form. You can't get much better than United was on the road and what they did on the road. Unbeaten on the road last year, picking up so many points from losing positions on the road, but struggling at home, losing to Crystal Palace, losing to teams that we should not have lost to at home, dropping the points to Southampton, losing to Southampton late in the season in a game that we needed to win at home. I thought it was very important with the fans in the stadium. Solicitor Oliver Banks, and Rob the Red, who were both over there at the game, were texting us videos and saying that they had never seen the atmosphere like that in the time that they had been there, and giving the fans something to cheer about. And I think that it could have easily, given what had transpired at the end of last season, gone very, very caustic, especially had they started to struggle against Leeds. Early, we were missing chances. That Pogba miss early in the first half, the Greenwood miss, the Pogba miss was just something spectacular. I'm still floored by that. And I was saying at halftime, great, we got the goal. It had to be Bruno. Thank you very much. It was a perfect pass. Bruno still had a lot to do, but it was a perfect pass. That interplay in between Pogba and Fernandes, when they're allowed to do it, is just so great. Opens up scoring, and you think, okay, now, are we going to rue those missed chances? And the minute Leeds scored, it was like, but fortunately, it's Greenwood comes down, he answers it 2 minutes later, and then it's off to the races. You know, by the time we get into the 70th, 80th minute where it's time, you know, I was actually for the first time saying, I hope they substitute Bruno and bring up Bruno for Jadon Sancho, because I wanted him to walk off the Stretford end and just have every eye be focused on him for a solid 2 minutes as he walked off the field. I'm glad that they didn't do it, because just swapping the two of them, I think, would have lessened a minute, but the moment, but you know, give him his moment. He earned it. He is, for all intents and purposes, the heartbeat. He may not be the captain, but he is the leader of that team. He's the player that players want to come and play with right now. You know, Southampton this weekend on the South Coast. I got my special jersey for it already. Breaking this one out.
Oh my God. Hey, that better not jinx it.
No, that's why I wear it to reverse.
I was having trouble seeing it while you were putting it.
Yeah, it actually has a pretty good record. But you know, I will say I got social media, or I'm pretty sure somebody decided to pull a social media gag on us. I went up to Baltimore. Big shouts out to the Charm City Red Devils. Great group. Fun time watching the game. A great group. But at the end of the game, there's a big Manchester United flag flying outside of the pub. Huge. There's a big Manchester United flag in the window that is visible from the street. And three guys who were there for a bachelor party, one of whom was wearing a Liverpool jersey, decided that he wanted to come in during the game for a beer. And
how quick did that last for?
He lasted one drink after one of the guys told the bartender not to serve him because he was wearing it. His buddy stood by the door. He walked right up to the bar and started standing next to me. I kind of like moved away. And he had the nerve to sit and say they had seen the bar yesterday. To which my friend Corey, who is not a small individual, looked at him and said, "You walked by here yesterday. Did you see the flag? Did you see the flag when you walked by this morning? The F are you doing in here right now?" So I just want to give him, and then like he's lucky that banter was the only thing that he got.
Oh yeah.
Because you just don't do that. Like, so to fans, it is one thing to make a mistake and walk into another team's bar. Don't be that guy. All right?
Yeah.
That guy is an a-hole. Don't be an a-hole. So this is once again why I don't like Liverpool, because that is emblematic of their fans to me.
Could you imagine if it was like a Philly bar? Like, I mean, again, I'm not a Philadelphia fan, but like, just imagine it was like a like the hard, die hard, like whatever biggest like biker bar for Philly fans.
I've seen a guy do that. I saw a guy do that in the Eagles Nest in DC.
Yeah, well, but that's in DC. I'm saying in Philly. No, imagine doing that in Philly.
Matt, this was at the District Eagles Nest in DC. Start walking in during the Redskins-Eagles match, talking trash about the Redskins and the Eagles, and he almost got stabbed with a spoon.
I mean, honestly, you're asking for it at that point. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I'm surprised no one like peed on the guy or did anything. Because like you're walking in, I don't care what you're there for. It's like United's playing. You know, Liverpool's not on for hours. You're walking in with a Liverpool shirt.
Yeah, he was kind of
asking. You're kind of asking for it.
He was asking for it because he wanted to put it up on Instagram.
Yeah. It's. We should have thrown him through. You should have thrown him through a window.
No, he walked off to a chance of wanker and Cheerio.
Yeah.
We politely sang his exit.
Good. Yeah, get him out.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating. Don't try to rain on. Well, it doesn't matter. We won. That's the good part.
And at that point in time, we were so far ahead. You know, had we been losing, it might have been less. But it was nice. We got some good singing in. I need to learn the chants for Greenwood and Sancho. So
Sancho.
That's my new mission for this week. But
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to just enjoy the opening win. So the last time we did this, I believe we did that Jose's season. We ended up going on and winning, coming in second. But then David Moyes also had the second biggest win, 4-1 against Swansea, and we also saw how that ended. So this is where we get into the point where it is not. You don't want to get too excited too quickly. Celebrate the win. It was a good performance. Hopefully they can keep it up. We saw what each one of those players can do at peak capacity. We know now that when United are operating as they are capable of doing, that they are a team that is capable of beating anybody, scoring goals and competing at the upper end of the Premier League. The question is, how many games this season are they going to do that? And that will be what we need to see.
Yeah.
So final thoughts on this one, Matt, before we move on and get our Bundesliga report from Bayern Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. The last thing that my parting words are actually going to be, we know what we can do on one-offs. We've seen it before. We've beat City at City a bunch of times under Ole. We've beaten every big team. The problem is the consistency. And, yes, we can come out firing against Leeds, all pumped up in the first home game. How are we going to be away against Southampton? And they're coming off, I believe they're coming off a loss. So they're going to want something to prove in front of their home fans. So, that's going to be the question that needs to be answered this year. Can we do it all like week in and week out? And if we can, then I think we definitely have the talent to push for the title this year. So exciting, but cautiously optimistic.
You know what the best part about it is? Young Sienna got her first win.
Yeah, we did. She got it. She fist pumped in the air. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, that's right.
She fist pumped?
She was really, she was happy. It was great. Fantastic.
All right, so she's the good luck charm.
She may have been passing gas, but we're just going to ignore that.
Yeah, she's undefeated.
Yeah, that's right. Undefeated.
But the problem is once they get on a losing streak, we're all going to blame her.
Yeah, that's absolutely. She can't be in the room anymore. Just get her out.
You might have to sell her on eBay.
That's true.
All right, Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys.
I know you got a round too. Thanks for joining us, Coach G. And we're going to turn it over to our good friend, Bayern Rob, who is wearing.
Hello.
Is that a Hoffenheim jersey?
It is a Hoffenheim jersey.
I'm surprised as all get out to see that from you.
I own a Hoffenheim jersey. It's the only Bundesliga jersey that's not Bayern in my my closet because it's a Chris Richards Hoffenheim jersey. So respect to Chris Richards. Respect to Chris Richards. Now, was this a mystery kit? No, it is not. I actually went physically to buy it because, I've been following Chris Richards ever since he moved from the FC Dallas Academy to Bayern, and using my VPN skills to watch U19 Bayern and Bayern 2, and then when he was a big part of that team that won the third division title with and then also he got I like to say a big break when he went to Hoffenheim for half a season, and he did really well. So I'm looking forward to big things. He just needs to see the field. That's the most important thing. So in addition to it being the opening of the Premier League, it was also the first weekend of the Bundesliga. Now, we have talked about how the fans, the atmosphere, the quality of play, it was really a great first weekend for the Premier League. I did watch a little bit of Bayern's draw on Friday, but after that, it was all Premier League all the time. So give us your impression of, the 6,000 foot impression of how this weekend went in the Bundesliga. I think it had some expected stories. So Erling Haaland just being dominant. He looks like he has something to prove. He would have set the transfer record, I think, or not Neymar level, but the one right below him if he did not have that release clause. I think he has a legit shot to score upper 30s, maybe 40 Bundesliga goals. He's just that good. I mean, he was fast too. He clocked nearly 36 kilometers per hour. He was that good. He was just a complete player. And Hoffenheim did amazing. Sebastian Hoeneß, I think he's going to do well. I think they'll definitely be challenging for a European spot. They scored 4. They had 4 goals. It was against Augsburg, but I still think they can play. They have some good players on there, like Baumgartner. But the one team I really was impressed with was Stuttgart. Stuttgart played really well, managed by the other American coach who's not named Jesse Marsh, Pellegrino Matarazzo, did really well. They had 30 shots on goal, and they have this up-and-coming Croatian center back named Borna Sosa, yeah. I think that if Croatia makes the World Cup, I think he has an excellent shot to make the team and potentially start. He's that good. I discovered him for myself last season playing fantasy Bundesliga, and he's just been continuing on the tear. He's just been phenomenal. He's been one of the best center backs in the league for the last potentially 8 months or so. And then you have Bayern, who, if you didn't know it, they looked like they were still managed by Hansi Flick. There was no Julius Nagelsmann DNA in their play. It was their first match back with all the big stars like Sane and Kimmich and Goretzka and Lewandowski and Muller. But they played this typical 4-2-3-1 formation. They high pressed. They gave up, chances, plenty of chances on the counterattack. It's going to be a while till you see this team be a Julian Nagelsmann team. And then Julius Nagelsmann former team, who's managed by, the hype Jesse Marsh, they look like they were stuck in a rudder. To me, they potentially could go 0-2 this season. 0-2 to start the season. Angelino is probably the only bright spot on that whole team. He's come over on a permanent transfer now from City. He can get up the field, attack, really good wing back play position. But, it's going to take a little bit of time to get out of that Nagelsmann ball and go into the high pressure gegenpressing that the Leipzig was formerly known for. And then hats off to Jan Sommer. Jan Sommer, the Swiss keeper for Gladbach. Amazing. He played on his head, 9 saves, second most saves in the weekend. For the draw, Bayern can score 5 goals. Easily. Lewandowski and Muller had plenty of chances, and Jan Sommer was just up for the challenge. So look out for Jan Sommer, because I think he's going to be, potentially on the move if he continues his play. He's been amazing. He's continued his play from the Euros, and he's carried it over. And for those folks, a programming note for folks in the States, Leverkusen and Gladbach will be on ABC, big ABC. So check your local listings on Saturday's match at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. So you'll be able to watch Jan Sommer save everything without cable.
So the big Bundesliga making it to the big ABC to rival big NBC's late matches. All right. I am totally with it. Some sad news coming out yesterday. I want to make sure I touch on before we move on with German great Gerd Müller passing away. Sean, I'm going to guess you probably are the only one of us who actually saw him play.
Yeah, in fact, I did see him play, because I think I remember on the very, very first podcast I did with you, you asked me memorable games that I've been at, and I was at the 75 European Cup final in Paris, in the Parc des Princes, and I'm pretty certain he would have been playing up front for Bayern Munich that night, but I'd have to Google it. But I do remember him because 74 was probably the first World Cup that I remember following and watching, and I'm pretty certain he was the top scorer there. He was just a beast in the penalty area, absolute beast. I'm just remembering the type of goals. It was always quite sort of acrobatic, and he had almost like a Podolski shot on him as well. It was like an absolute bullet. So yeah, I do remember him, yeah, I always followed his career. I hadn't realised the scoring record he had for Munich is just phenomenal.
His scoring record for Munich is insane.
Yeah.
His scoring record for at the time, the West German national team is ridiculous. Of 68 goals in 62 appearances, only 2 players who have scored more than 50 goals have a better goal-to-game ratio than he did. He's the last player to score more than to reach double digits in a World Cup.
But he was the true definition of a goal hanger.
Yeah,
I mean, almost that came from him.
Almost every goal that he scored, I think, in all of his 68 international goals were scored from within the penalty, from
in the penalty area.
In the penalty area, and from the penalty spot and within, right? 398 Bundesliga goals and 453 appearances. He to put it in perspective, his record for Bundesliga goals, Robert Lewandowski is about 100 goals behind him right now, but he scored 398 in 453 games. Robert Lewandowski could very well break it, but he has already played 498 games. Yeah. So he will have played at a minimum to break this, probably somewhere in 100 and 150 more games to score those goals than it took Mueller. And I think the most impressive thing about him was he was not a big guy. He was 5'9".
Was he?
Right. Yeah, he was not a particularly big guy. He was just incredibly well balanced and acrobatic. Instead, Rob, for us, not a guy that you necessarily hear a lot about when we talk about the greats of the game. I knew who he was primarily because back for the 06 World Cup, Adidas put out a line of, retro inspired gear. And one of them was the track jacket that the West German national team would have worn in the 1970 World Cup when he scored 10 goals. And on the back, it said Der Bomber World Tour, and it had the score of all the games he played and the number of goals that he scored in it. And that was the first time that I'd really heard of him. And so I looked him up and found out just how. But other than that, I don't think that I had really ever heard of him, except even tangentially when they mentioned Lucas Podolski breaking his record for World Cup goals with 16. Just a great of the game who we just don't necessarily get to hear a lot about. So, Rob, you're a Bayern fan. Get your perspective on the legacy of Gerd Müller from the Bayern perspective.
Just a pure legend. Like one of the greatest, moments in moments in time in Bayern history was the three-peat of European championships, which now are the Champions League. It's incredible. Like, him and later on, Uli Hoeneß and Paul Brunner, all those guys, Beckenbauer, Sepp Maier, all those players, man, they're the foundation of Bayern Munich. And, they're a big reason why they're so far ahead of the rest of the league is because the foundation was established with players like Gerd Müller. And Bayern had done a great job to preserve that history and preserve, that success. And that's why they're so far ahead. Sad moment, he suffered from Alzheimer's for a long time, and, glad he's in peace now. But, just a remarkable player. To see Robert Lewandowski break the record last season with 41 goals in the Bundesliga season and pay respect to Müller with Forever Gerd shirt underneath the kit was just wonderful. It's one of the moments we will never forget. And just his level of gravity was amazing. He had these legs like tree trunks, and I know a lot of people talk about Maradona having a low center of gravity with his dribbling, but Gerd Muller would just, he was a mountain to move. He was one of the ultimate poachers of the game. Like you said earlier, never scored outside the penalty box, but really, and he just was. And ball was in the box, it was his, and it was going in the back of the net. Just remarkable. He won it all. Euros, Champions League, the World Cup. Held the record at one point for goals. That only a Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, and now Miroslav Klose are on top of him. But it was remarkable. I'm sad to see him go, but at least he's now at peace, and we will never forget his legacy. And if you want a bomber jacket, bomber shirt, I think there's some in the Bayern fan shop. They've been around for a while, along with some Beckenbauer stuff. But just wonderful. You gotta.
He had the record with 85 goals scored in a calendar year. I believe it was 1974, and it stood or 72. He scored 85 goals in a calendar year, which stood for 40 years until Messi broke it in 2012 with I think he had 86 or 87. When Messi broke it, he sent Mueller a signed Messi jersey. Now, I know that might sound a little bit egotistical, like, oh, I'm gonna send you my jersey, but he did it, the fact that he knew to respect the guy who had done this and paid and sent him a personally signed jersey as a commemoration of the fact that he and just how much work Messi knew that he had to put in to do that, and how far out there that was. One of the great goal scorers. And also a tribute to Bayern Munich. I know later on in life he had a falling out with the club, which is why he went to Fort Lauderdale. He opened up a restaurant down in Fort Lauderdale and unfortunately became an alcoholic while he was down there. But it was just Bayern who got him treatment and then afterwards gave him a job coaching that he held until he began suffering from Alzheimer's. So legend, and it was sad to see him go.
And by the way, I did see him play. He was playing in the 70s, and worse than that, he scored as well, but I don't remember the goal.
It just touched on Mike, what you said about the Messi jersey. The jersey and the boots are in the Bayern Museum. It is the only non-Bayern piece of memorabilia in the museum. And Messi made it not only signed it, but he also wrote some stuff on the jersey. So as a respect to the record.
All right. So, Rob, we want to thank you for coming on and joining us. And you're welcome to stay as we move over and talk to Chelsea Mike. And I have got to figure out what is going on with this.
What?
You're wearing a Hearts jersey.
I am wearing a Hearts jersey.
Which
Hearts are, of course, my Scottish team. I've threatened to wear my Hearts jersey on the show before, and I've made good on this threat. We're going to talk about some lower league football, and what better than a Scottish team that has just come up.
We already did that, and I'm sure that Cam would have some choice words for you if he was to see that. But I mean, we're back in the library wearing a Hearts jersey. And are you drinking grappa?
No, I have a cup of coffee and a Sambuca.
Okay. It's like I picked up on the after dinner drink, and I'm like, I every once in a while y'all do something on this show, and I just am speechless with it. So, Mike, yes, I know that you instead are going to get into the lower league soccer report, but you wanted to gloat a little bit about Chelsea and the week that was, winning the European, the Super Cup, Kepa's redemption, saving the penalties, winning 3-0 the first game, and then there was that whole entire thing about signing Romelu Lukaku for the 400th time. Has anybody spent more money on Romelu Lukaku than Chelsea has? Like, Nicholas Anelka used to be the most expensive paid for player in the world, just all his transfers. I'm pretty sure Romelu Lukaku has now beat that record just in what Chelsea has paid for him, the multiple times that they've tried to bring him back from places.
How dare you bring up this name on that podcast? you know my thoughts about Nicholas Anelka. That time he lost us the Champions League.
Y'all bought him.
Yeah.
Just remember,
you've got to love a striker who won't take a penalty kick, right?
Y'all bought him.
Yeah, I know. Thanks.
Y'all knew what you knew. You knew what you were getting when you paid for it.
Thanks, Sean.
Y'all knew it.
I know. And we talked about it extensively at the time about how Nicholas Anelka was terrible. And he was.
But y'all bought him.
Yeah. Anyway, I think Romelu Lukaku is going to be slightly more successful, just based on his recent run of form.
But that was in the Italian league.
True.
We have talked at Romelu Lukaku looks like a much different striker. Unfortunately, it took him being forced out of Man United to realize that there were certain things that he needed to develop with his game. He's lost some weight. He's added some strength and mobility. He's really studied and become more adept at passing in front of it. It looks like he took the reasons why he was asked to leave to heart and used them to drive him to become a much better player. And he has something to prove both in the Premier League and to Chelsea. That is the positive when it comes. He was great in Italy. We have talked about the fact that Italy tends to be a slower and less physical league than the Premier League does.
Okay.
And whether or not you can, can you expect him to be as productive for Chelsea as he was in Inter?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that the English league is the best league in the world. I know others have opinions, but I just think that the level of skill, competition, and money at the top teams in the Premier League, they just have the best players. They have the best players. It's the best league. I think any player coming from any other league can be forgiven for a slight drop in performance. That said, there are expectations that come along when you pay a fee that high. When you're over $100 million, you better be one of the best. And if you're one of the best, you're going to score at least 20 goals. And I would say 20 league goals, 30 goals across all competitions. I mean, for what was paid, you would expect 30 goals across all competitions. And we should see that. You can say he was playing in the Italian league. It's thinner, it's lower. There still is top level talent. They have great defenders in that league. But he not only did he finish the last season in La Liga hot, I mean, he continued it on into the Euros. So, it wasn't like, that's essentially the all-star competition you would like to think. So, I mean, I think he's right now, he was at the perfect spot to be sold in his career because he's going to make the most money right now that he ever has. And lots of teams have paid lots of money for Romelu Lukaku, been let down. Inter was not. I think with the supporting cast around him, it's impossible for him to fail, where I think it could be an issue, but I trust Thomas Tuchel to deal with. And we could talk a little bit more about those penalty kicks maybe. But where he is a pure 9. Tammy Abraham did pretty well under Frank Lampard. He did not do well and did not really even feature under Thomas Tuchel. So them adding in a pure 9 will be different, as opposed to essentially playing with 3 wingers across the front, or a false 9. So I think that I think that's the only question. I mean, the talent's there, the physical skills are there. Romelu Lukaku is just, the striker you want right now. If you could just start a team and just like fantasy draft without having to worry about money, would obviously be Erling Haaland. He's 21, but Romelu Lukaku, I think, would be the second. You talk about the week. I mean, I think it was a great week. How about Trevoh Chalboa, right? I mean, this guy comes in, he's a center back, and he scores in his first game on a kick. It wasn't a header. I noticed this in the Super Cup game, and I think it's important to note what Tuchel seemed to be doing with Chalboa in the back was almost allowing him to wander forward a little more, where he almost went to just a back two, like a straight back two, not like a 4-4-2 where your wings sort of pinch up a little bit. He sort of left Rudiger. I guess he trusts the physical skills of Rudiger to keep up with fast strikers, or I don't think, Crystal Palace isn't really going to have the flightiest strikers of all time, but it's Chalboa. I think he performed adequately defensively and provided an offensive spark. I think the buzz all summer was that he was going to be loaned again. It doesn't look like he'll be loaned again this year, but I think his emergence is it's another academy talent. It's another homegrown player. And it's just another weapon in a team that's full of them. And he's been able to break through. So, I mean, best week ever. It's been a good couple of months to be a Chelsea supporter. And, yes, okay, since the early 2000s, it's been pretty much a rocket up, but, it was a dark couple of years. We didn't win any trophies in 2019, 2020. Barely made the Champions League. So, I mean, things are good at Chelsea. So yeah, that's all I got on Chelsea. I mean, what else? Do I just get to keep spouting off information? Sean, can we talk for a second?
We can.
I mean, I know you've talked about it. I want, just as I kind of want to talk about Brentford a little bit. We could sort of use it to transition. I wasn't here earlier, so I didn't hear what your assessment of the match was, but I think just, I think Brentford, first of all, I think you guys got hosed. I mean, there hasn't been a Premier League game at Brentford, it was League One back then, in 75 years. It's a full stadium. They hadn't been there in a whole year. I mean, I don't think that game showed what you were, and I also don't think it showed what Brentford was. But Brentford came up from the depths of the lower leagues, they've destroyed the typical system, right? So they're using, instead of having an academy, they're using statistics and analytics to get players who other people are overlooking. right? And who might be underperforming in their current roles based on the skill sets they have and just where they are. And they've been tremendously successful. To me, this is exactly Moneyball, which was, the movie, and then it changed the entire game of baseball. It changed the way people talk about the game of baseball. Let me ask you this: do you think? First of all, just briefly, what are your thoughts on Brentford, and what do you think, like an analytics based game? What do you think that means?
Okay, I'll answer the first question first. And the best way of summing up how I felt was comparing it to a game we had away to West Brom about 3 years ago in Wenger's last season, and they interviewed Theo Walcott straight after the game, and they said, "Theo, what do you think went wrong?" And Theo said they wanted it more, which we found quite astonishing, that an Arsenal player would come out in an interview and say they fucking wanted it more. But that is a great summation, I think, about Friday. Brentford sort of wanted it more. The goal we let in, there were some interesting stats that were mentioned earlier, Mike. So Stead mentioned that away from home, our record, when we go 1-0 down, we haven't won at all. We've never come back. Is that right, Stead, or something? You're on mute. Sorry.
I believe under Arteta, that was the stat.
Under Arteta, that's
Yes.
the stat.
Mhm.
So it was a bad goal to concede. Leno's not looking up to it, and I think we lost. We deservedly lost the game.
Mhm.
What we have got to make sure is that we're up for it on Sunday against you lot, because that
Yeah.
is very, very important to Arteta.
It's very important to Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
Well, considering we're talking about Brentford and Mikel Arteta, and I know we've had some opinions on his coaching pedigree, and he probably should have started in the Championship before he decided to take a Premier League job. Why don't we go ahead and we got about 8 minutes left? So, look, I just want to say this about the Championship and why I, over the past couple of years, have fallen in love with lower league, especially in England, is we're only 2 games in to the Championship season, and no one's undefeated. Or sorry, no one is every team has dropped at least 2 points.
Yeah.
So that is just amazing. You're looking at it going, wow, like no one went 2-0.
There are 10 teams with 4 points.
Yeah.
10 teams with 4 points.
It's great. It's great.
Right,
it's great. And it's like the lure of the unknown when it comes to the Championship has already started, and we're only two fixtures into the season, and you're already looking at it going, well, teams that you expected to have a bit stronger start didn't. But you look at a team who's in 16th, Millwall, who has 2 draws, which isn't a bad way to start the season. So and only 2 teams have no points. Only 2.
Only
2. It's not even Forest and Preston are the only teams with no points. So it's already a good start. It's already exciting, and it's already like, well, you kind of see who probably are going to be in that top 6. But again, it's going to be, I think it's going to be another fun year in the Championship, especially.
So Stead, I know, I think we should use this time just to talk about Championship. It's what these guys are going to know. I just want to throw in these interjections from League One and League Two, because we'll do a thing.
We'll do a thing.
And honestly, I'm halfway through League One, just like looking at rosters. It's been hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to say this about League One and League Two. This year is Sunderland's year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sunderland are coming back up to the Championship this year. I feel it. And going down to League Two, this is an interesting fact. Since the Premier League started, no team that has played in the Premier League has ever been relegated from the league. No Premier League team has ever had to go down the conference. I think Oldham United this year might be. Oldham United are charter members of the Premier League. They are in League Two. They were in the lower half last year. I think I've heard they finished around 16th.
Mm-hmm.
but this year I think might be the year that a Premier League side leaves the league. So those are
unless their biggest fan decides to give them a couple of million quid.
True. Who is their
biggest fan?
As in Mr. Scholes. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh. So wait, while we're on the topic of old players, why don't we turn our attention to Derby?
Yeah.
Because I can fully see them being relegated this year.
Absolutely.
They were basically relegated last year.
Oh, they were a nose hair away from being relegated.
They were. And if it weren't for the fact that I think Wayne Rooney brings in enough money that they're willing to hang on to him, I can't see this experience working that much longer, because it's clear the record is not going to be there for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's virtually no chance they get promoted, and I mean, I know, doing your time down in the lower leagues, getting the experience, moving up. I think, Rooney is probably going to have to serve under someone if he wants to be a Premier League coach. But Mike, if Wayne Rooney fails where Frank Lampard succeeded, does that settle the argument forever?
About what?
Lampard versus Rooney.
About what? I'm perplexed by that. Like, who the better manager is? Like, we always knew that.
No, I mean just all around soccer, because we all know that Frank Lampard.
When Derby fire Wayne Rooney, they can always go back to Frank, can't they?
That's a good point.
They can always shift Frank Lampard back in. Here's not to cast any dispersions on Wayne Rooney, right? I think he was a phenomenal football player when he was playing, in spite of himself. I don't think that he has the temperament or the personality to be an effective manager. There's nothing about his.
No, come on, Mike. Let's face it. You go out on a night out on the piss, and you let 4 girls take pictures of you because you've fallen asleep in a hotel room at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's nothing about it. There's nothing about his character that says
first of all,
he's going to be able to be a manager.
Well, also, this is the guy who went out with his friends.
Caught in a hotel room with a load of birds fucking taking pictures of him.
What about when he went out with his boy and they decided to come home and get in a boxing match in the kitchen and he almost cracked his head open? I mean, it was funny. Like, people don't know. You should not fight anyone on a hard surface because the ground does not have any give. And he's very lucky that he got away with what he did because he was out cold. I mean,
but that was,
come on. That's worse than getting a picture with the girls.
I mean, this is the sort of thing, the showing up, going out on the piss during match days, which he did at United, which he did in Philly, or in DC.
In DC.
Yeah, like, there's nothing about his character, and from what I understand, he's a perfectly nice, fun-loving individual. But that's the sort of stuff that I just don't think there's a certain level of maturity I don't think that he has quite attained yet that he would need to. That is why, Giggs could have been, Lampard was, Gerrard is better qualified to be a manager right now than Rooney, and to deal with this guy who barely has the attention span to be a player and ask him to bifurcate himself to be both a player and a manager, it's a marketing gimmick. It's a marketing gimmick from a team that needs to bring in revenue and doesn't necessarily have the talent or anything to do it organically.
I mean, if we can, they certainly don't. They replaced a lot of the they replaced a lot of players who left this year with academy players. They didn't really bring anybody in. I don't think they're in a great financial situation. And I mean,
That's
it's
what
all the
Adam-
writing's on the wall to go down.
Yeah, I think all the writing's on the wall to go down. I don't think that they have the finances. And the only thing that they have going that's going to put butts in seats and keep attention on Derby, right? This is Derby. Outside of Frank Lampard's run with them and being the worst team point-wise to play in the Premier League, what do we know about them recently? I know they have a history. I know that they were a competitive team at one point. So was Oldham, so was Coventry. You know, look, I hate to
They
tell
haven't got
you,
a lot of game for them. You're right. They haven't got a lot of game for them.
no,
Hey, we're running out of time. I just want to get I just want to get a couple key points in about the championship here. Right now, the three biggest scorers last year have left. Right, it's Ivan Toney, Timo Pukki, and Adam Armstrong, who scored a goal for Southampton this weekend. They're all out. The biggest remaining scorer from last year was Kiefer Moore with 20. He's playing at Cardiff. He's on the Welsh national team. He had a goal in the Euros. Could see him repeating, but the big question is who steps up? And I am combing through looking for the young talent because the next couple of big scores, Bournemouth has a couple guys, but the next couple of big scores were old, kind of like longtime championship guys. I think the championship, you know, there's a young player out there and we're going to see it really quickly. However, I think first of all, I think Fulham are going to be really good this year.
I do too.
They're the only
they're going to go up.
They spent $15 million on Harry Wilson from Liverpool. They're the only team in the lower leagues to have spent more than $5 million on a player.
Mhm.
Fulham is not trying to stay down. And I mean, they have to with their team, with Anguissa, with Adarabioyo. They have to go back up this year, or they're going to be in a world of trouble. But I think the player to watch this year in the entire championship is their striker Mitrovic. 2 years ago when they were down in the championship, Mitrovic scored 26 goals. And you know, he looked a threat in the Premier League last year. And I think with the dearth of goals right now, or dearth of goal scorers, I mean, I think you look to Mitrovic. He would be my prediction for championship top scorer. I think that Fulham, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United are going to go back up. I don't think Sheffield are going to sell Aaron Ramsdale. I don't think they can. Excuse me. And Slavica Jokanovic has been promoted twice before. So I think they're thinking promotion.
Although, Mike, Sheffield United have just bought another keeper. Which might suggest that they bought that to replace Ramsdale.
And also, Sheffield United has been very, very, very heavily linked with Amad Diallo, the young forward from Manchester United. And I think that's going to be one that's going to be confirmed any day now.
Robin Olsen is the keeper, the Swedish guy.
So going up, I have Bournemouth. I think they have the young talent, and you know they were in the playoffs last year, so it's managed by Scott Parker, everybody's favorite, right?
He's dapper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I have them going up. Going down, I have Derby County, Huddersfield, Preston North End. Preston North End got absolutely wrecked by Fulham this weekend. By the way, don't just believe me. Don't just believe the words that are coming out of my mouth. Tomorrow is Championship Tuesday. And if in the States, ESPN is streaming the Fulham game. So check it out, 2:45. You know, it's championship football. What else are you doing on Tuesday.
So I'll agree with Fulham, but I think the surprise package is going to be Mr. Warnock. And I think Middlesbrough are going to also put in a very strong challenge.
I do like that pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like Fulham, but I don't think I think Bournemouth gets the other spot. I do.
Just Fulham last year, when you were watching, we commented on the show. They don't look like a team that should be going down.
They were snake bitten in several games last year. It seemed like they were a squad that just, they would put in the performance, unable to finish, and would give up like one or two just bad goals, and next thing you know, they're playing from behind. And Mitrovic was basically useless last year for a lot of the season. He wasn't able to really finish for them, which was sad because I thought they looked like a quality squad that if they could have just found the back of the net a little bit more, they were totally looking like a Premier League squad to me.
I will take pictures for both of you, Mike, instead, of both outside and inside the ground at Fulham next time I'm up there, okay?
Yeah, I got a buddy.
A special gift for the both of you.
Yeah, well, I would love to see what they've done with it, because I know they've been doing a lot of work. I saw Craven Cottage.
They've done the work on the riverside.
Yeah,
so
I was there like 10 years ago, maybe less than that. And I was in London, and I tried to see every stadium I could. And I remember just wanting to see that one in particular, because the satellite images of that place look amazing, how it's on the river and everything. But then seeing all the construction, where that was the planning stages when I was there, is I would love to see what that looks like now.
Yeah.
All right,
Sean, did you have you ever seen the movie Field of Dreams?
Yes, I have.
Did they actually played a Major League Baseball game there last week? To me, Craven Cottage almost has that sort of feel. Like, it's got the museum off to the side, which looks like an old house.
Well, I think it's the only ground that's still got wooden seats in it as well. Have you seen behind one of the grounds? Literally, those old wooden seats that you used to have that you clatter down.
They've got the cottage still. Yes, but mind you, Mike, they didn't actually play the Field of Dreams game in the Field of Dreams.
It was next to it.
Next to it.
It's in the same cornfield.
It's actually not, because the cornfield, there's actually a dispute in between. They couldn't play it at the original stadium because there's a dispute. There's one farm that owns the infield and another one that owns the outfield. And guess what? They don't like each other.
That's such an American thing to do, especially a Midwestern American
thing. That is definitely, that's a Hatfield McCoy right there.
Yes, it is. But gentlemen, we are up against it. Mike, we've got championship Tuesday coming up. Rob, before we go, somebody told me that there was a match tomorrow that might involve two teams in the Bundesliga that might be interesting to watch. Real quick, what am I looking for tomorrow?
You're looking for Erling Haaland to make a statement saying that, it's his time to, be the best striker in the Bundesliga, even though it'd probably be for one season once he goes. And you're going to also look for Gio Reyna. This is his year. Dortmund is expecting big things from him. They gave him the number 7 shirt for a reason, so they want him to do something with it. But also, I think Bayern will win it because, they're just Bayern and I'm a Bayern fan, so blah, blah, blah. And one program, I will be visiting the Louisville, Kentucky Bayern group tomorrow on my way to the Women's Cup tournament, which the Bayern women will be playing in. But we're going to hang out at this bar next to the stadium and watch the Super Cup. So I'll be there with my fellow Bayern fans. Should be fun.
I will be watching from my house. All right, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. As always, I want to thank Chelsea Mike for joining us with the Chelsea in the Lower League report. Bayern Rob for giving us all the news from Germany. Celtic Cam for joining us and giving us this SPL report. Larry, the insurance guy, and Carlos for their input on Spurs and Manchester City. Of course, Coach Matt for coming in and sharing with the glory that was Manchester United's win. As always, a big thanks goes to London Sean. I know it was a rough week. Hopefully next week is better.
I don't hope that.
Well, no, I mean, even if it's not that Arsenal beat Chelsea, like, can we give the man something? Maybe it's that. No, I was going to say the whatever. Something. Give the man something.
Third test. Maybe win the third test. Win the third
test. Maybe the 100 will work out to be good. I don't know.
Maybe Sean. Maybe
you get Exeter City their first win of the season.
Exeter City gets up. There we go. Exeter, come on, Exeter.
I don't know, Ramsdale. If Sheffield, maybe there's some news for you.
Yes, true.
Maybe.
I'd rather have the Odegaard news, but anyway.
Okay.
And and as always, thanks to producer Stead for joining us and keeping the trains running on time.
On his vacation. It's pretty
vacation.
Yeah.
Impressive
and dedicated to his work.
Mm-hmm. I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next. Take care and have a good week.